Okay, the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion deep dive for Alchemy. This one is a big one. There is no way I'm doing this in one part. It might be like 15 parts. Okay, that hopefully I'm exaggerating, but this is nuts. This is really insane. This is not even the main page. You know, we're not even looking at alchemy effects or a useful potions page. There is just so much to read, and you know how I feel about reading. I'm not doing it. So instead, I'm putting things into a spreadsheet. So first I'd like to talk about how we increase the skill. So this is just right here, this skill level and XP needed. This is from the, what do you call it, UESP, the wiki, I'll say, because it's easier to say. This is just how much experience you need for a skill to gain a level. So for example, you might have watched my stream, you saw Grandpa casting alteration skills. Each cast of an alteration skill gives you 4 experience. So at the beginning, 1 cast is gaining me those levels. Then it starts to need more and more casts, and by the end game, you need a lot of casts. You know, 50 of them would be 200 experience, so it wouldn't even be enough. These numbers are specific to just alchemy. So with that, let me turn this up for a little bit. Where do I want to start? If you don't pick it as a major, you don't pick it as a specialization, this is your experience required, and that's how many potions you need, because each potion that you make gives you 5 experience. So it's going to take a while. 2,000 potions is a lot. This is if you pick it as a specialization, a spec, your specialization, you're going to start at 10 skill. So the XP needed from 10 to 100 is this much. So you're going to need that much experience from the specialization bonus, so you need 1,500 potions. I'm not going to read them all out. You know, this is like if you include some racial bonuses, you might start at 40. If you are a Bosmer, they get plus 10 to alchemy. They're the only race who does. You pick it as a major and your specialization, you're going to start at 40 skill. That's the most you can start with any skill in Oblivion. That's if your race has plus 10 to that skill and you put it in both your specialization and your major. That would need 835 potions. Now notice, these 3 numbers aren't that different. So it's not really important that you pick it as you pick a racial bonus with alchemy. Those skill bonuses are not that important. However, I will say, if you're not going to pick magic as a specialization, it might be worth your time to pick alchemy as a major skill. You know, I know I kind of poo-poo it in my major skills tier list because it can go up way too fast. I love making potions. I love making tons of potions. I love just running around farms and picking up stuff to get gold. But 2,000 potions is so many. Like, it really is a lot. Unless you really love just farming and running around all day, I think it's worth it. Now, if you do love that, that's fine. So don't pick it because you don't want to gain a bunch of levels just from alchemy. Because while it does improve your player power, it won't feel good if you always need to have a bunch of potions going just to do anything, like when you're level 7 or 8 or 9. So it's not always the best to pick it as a major skill. I think a specialization is enough. 1,500 potions is a lot, but it's reasonable. Picking it as both, I think, is just overkill. That's not that many potions. You can make 50 pretty quick. Remember, it's 5 experience. You know, these levels go pretty quick until you get to the end. Then it slows down a lot. But at that point, you know, you can just do a couple farms. You could get the master trainer if you really want, because five skill ups and a master trainer, you know, that's a lot more potions that you're saving time for. I think that's enough about how to increase it. The perks for alchemy, you know, I don't usually do like beginner guides. I like to do more of a deep dive. But if you don't know, as a novice, you just see the first effect of an ingredient. You know, as you get to 25, you see 2 effects. 50, you see 3. 75 skill, you see all 4 effects of one ingredient. And at 100, you can make a potion from just one ingredient. And so if I look at, like, for example, wormwood leaves, they have 4 effects. If I have 100 skill and I just put wormwood leaves in my mortar and pestle, it'll be fortify fatigue because that's the first effect. If I wanted to get one of these other effects, I would still need to be combining it with 2 ingredients. So that's how it works when you get to 100 alchemy. Now, the reason I pulled up wormwood leaves is because I think fortify fatigue is really underrated. And so I think when you are making potions, it's important that you know what you want. So wormwood leaves are one of the few that fortify fatigue. And there's actually only 2 things in the base game and 2 in the Shivering Isles that do fortify fatigue. Now, if you notice, wormwood leaves and flour. Flour is really common. You can get a lot of it. And it also has Restore Fatigue as its first ingredient. So if you want to make a potion that has Fortify Fatigue and Restore Fatigue, well, you can do wormwood leaves, flour, and then any food combined with it. Now, notice wormwood leaves have damage health. So if you have a decent alembic, it'll only be 1 per second. I'll talk about that later. But if you combine it with like rice, it'll also give you Restore Fatigue. So you'll have potions that are giving you tons of fatigue. If you have max skill and everything, it's 148 per potion, and you can stack up to 4 at a time. So that's almost 600 fatigue, and they will be restoring fatigue, which would be 27 per second. So you'd be getting like 100 fatigue back a second, which you'll never drain that much. The most you're getting from a power attack with a really heavy weapon is like 80 fatigue that you'd be spending. Now, that's if you have the best of everything. So this spreadsheet actually took me a while, and that's because these master equations are, look at all these words. Like, are you kidding me? It's too much. And so this is not talking about duration-only effects. An example of that, like going invisible or a paralyzing potion. And it's not talking about magnitude-only effects, which is just a spell. So I don't know why they give it its own category. The spell is special because it doesn't have a duration. So this is like, this spreadsheet is for if I'm making a potion with a positive effect, because it's kind of ridiculous that you need all of this just for that amount of information. So let's go through it. Let's pick, I picked Fortify Fatigue. I just put some base costs right here just so I can remember without having to pull up other stuff. So Fortify Fatigue has a base spell cost of 0.04. So I put that in here. It's going to give it this multiplier. That's just how base costs always work. I don't really know why they don't just divide them by 10 in the first place. Not important. Your equipment. The alembic really doesn't affect potions. It affects poisons, and if you have a negative effect on your potion, the alembic will lower that negative effect. For some reason, novice does the opposite of that, but after you have an expert alembic, your negative side effects are pretty much 1 magnitude for 1 second. So like if I had that Fortify Fatigue potion from the wormwood leaves and the flour, and the like an apple has damage health, that damage health is going to be 1 magnitude for 1 second. It's not a big deal. So your equipment, you've probably played this a lot and you're used to having novice equipment. So that would mean these multipliers would be 0.1, and then they have things in the construction kit, so I need them for my spreadsheet. But the 0.1 means that you have novice equipment. It's exciting when you find slightly better equipment. 0.25. I think this is nice to look at because I can show you the difference that the retort is actually by far the most powerful changer. So let's go to 50 skill. We're doing a Fortify Fatigue potion. So if I have all novice equipment and 20 skill, Fortify Fatigue is going to have 28 magnitude for 109 seconds. Price is always just your Alchemy skill plus your Mortar and Pestle multiplier times 0.45. So it's always the same, just it's based on your skill and your Mortar and Pestle and nothing else. So that's why even if you make a bunch of different types of potions, they're all cost the same. We can talk more about that later. Now, if I improve my calcinator, or my retort, to 1, it goes up to 39. So that's at master. If I improve my calcinator, the calcinator is the overpowered one. Sorry, I thought it was a retort. I might have these backwards. Do I have them backwards? Not important. Man, I really don't want to mess this up. 1 second. Which one has the 1.4? Calcinator has the 1.4. Okay. Yeah, I got it right. Okay. So calcinator is the one that has the big multiplier, 1.4, where it's easier to see when they're at master skills. These ones are multipliers, 1.4 and 0.5. Retort will have a bigger effect on duration, where calcinator will have a smaller effect on duration. As you see, if I have 0.1, that's the multiplier. Retort will make it lower. So retort has a smaller impact on, less than half of an impact on magnitude as the calcinator does. The calcinator has a very big impact on magnitude. The Mortar and Pestle doesn't change a ton because it's not quite, the equation's kind of nuts. Like you see all this up here? It's not simple. And then that's not even, that whole thing is included in this, which is even more with like addition and a little bit of multiplication. So it's pretty absurd how much is needed to calculate a potion. But I think it's nice to be able to see, if I go to journeyman equipment, 0.5, which, yeah, if you look over here, journeyman is 0.5 for like the level. And I get up to 50 skill. My everything's just going up. It's getting a lot better. I thought I had this set to equal that. I didn't. I must have messed this up. This should be equal that. This should be equal that. Because this is just, there's different multipliers that affect magnitude and that affect duration. So again, this is for a 4 to 5 fatigue potion. If I have journeyman stuff and 50 skill, it's going to have 73 magnitude. Even getting to 100 skill is only going to bring it up to 94. So we looked with the best stuff, 4 to 5 fatigue was 148. So even with 100 skill, it's not nearly enough to get there. It really makes a huge difference improving your calcinator, even your retort, and yes, your mortar and pestle. Alembic isn't going to change all these, so it's not in the multiplier. And yeah, mortar and pestle and skill are the only thing that change price. The most your potions are going to ever be is 56 gold a piece. That's when you have the master mortar and pestle and 100 skill. The cats are meowing. Tricks about weight I wanted to talk about. So the weight is the average of the ingredients made. You know, you might notice like the weight doesn't make sense. That's because if you mix like a pumpkin and a watermelon that weigh like 5 pounds each, your potion's going to weigh 5 pounds. And all restore fatigue potions that you make after that will also weigh that same amount. So even if you switch to like rice and strawberries that are lighter, it'll still have that same weight. Now, however, the second you gain 1 alchemy skill or improve any equipment, you're not making an identical potion anymore. And so now you're going to determine that new weight by the average of things that you make. So I like to, whenever I gain a level, unless if I'm gaining multiple levels, but like after I get to like 70 alchemy, I like to just not use heavy potions. Even with like Restore Health is a good potion. I try not to use Daedra Hearts unless I know I'm not going to gain a level because they weigh 2 pounds and it's annoying to have 1 pound potions. You'd much rather have light potions. I just put these here so I could test some things with their base cost. You know, I think these are good effects in the game. For example, if you're making a Restore Health potion, I can just put 10 as my base cost. This is how much I'm going to restore with this sort of stuff. So we can go to, like, this is kind of a good mid-game point. You have 50 skill and journeyman equipment, you know, even 75 skill. It's gaining you 7. I don't know how the rounding works. It's really weird, but it's going to be 7 or 8 health per second for probably 26 seconds. You know, Feather has a very low base cost. And so you're getting this for, that's all, was that 9 minutes, 156 Feather. So Feather potions can be really powerful because the base cost is so low. They last a long time too. So I love Feather potions. What else? I talked about Restore Fatiguing. These are some ingredients I think you should look out for. You know, these are kind of my top 5 potions that I make in any build. People like other stuff. You can, there's this useful potions thing on the wiki. It's so much. I think it's just, holy cow. I just almost had a seizure just trying to read all that. It's too much for me. I'm not doing it. Back to mine. Very small list. I like to keep things simple. Flax seeds are all over Skingrad. You just run around Skingrad. And if you ever want to look yourself, like you don't want to like go through my video to find out what I talk about here. If I go to Restore Magic, and I go to Flax Seeds, I can go to this if it ever loads. Well, this one's already loaded. And this shows you on a map where they spawn. So these wormwood leaves that I'm going to get to mix with my flour all spawn around here. And it even gives you more specific information like at Apple Watch, at Cloud Ruler Temple. And it shows you a picture of what they look like. You know, I know these are at the Arcane University Garden too, so I'm excited to get in there. That's just, all right, what? Oh, it worked. Flax seeds all over here. They are everywhere, and they come in different colors. So flax seeds, they also have Restore Magicka as the first effect. And so, but when you get 100 alchemy, these are what people, if you use the Atronach, you're just running around for 30 minutes getting a bunch of these and get 4 going all the time. Just know, you know, what is that? Restore Magicka is a base cost of 2.5. Even with 100 skill, if you don't have good equipment, you're missing out on a lot. It's 15, where if you get that equipment up, it goes all the way up to 24. And notice the mortar and pestle did not make a big difference. 22 to 24, it's really that calcinator. If you have a novice calcinator, it's really cutting it down. So when you find a calcinator, it's going to make a big difference. When you find a retort, it's going to make a pretty solid difference too. You know, this would be a novice retort. But calcinator is the big one. Skill makes a difference, obviously. You know, if I have 5 skill, it's way lower. But like 75 to 100, it's really not that much of a difference. The mortar and pestle, really the multiplier is like it works with your skill. If I have 75 skill, this kind of, the way it works in the equations is this is going to act like I have 100 skill. That part of the equation caps at 125. Oops, 125. And so what was I saying? And so even getting like fortifying your alchemy, which you can't actually do. Never mind. The only way you can fortify alchemy is with, oh my goodness, it's like with that DLC, that Wizard's Tower. For whatever reason, fortify alchemy just doesn't work. Man, there is so much. I can't read. Who am I kidding? I'm not doing it. Did I have anything else? Oh yeah, steel blue mushrooms. These are like steel blue entomola caps. They're all over the Arcane University. Void salts drop from the Daedra, the Storm Atronachs, the Fire Atronachs. Stinkhorn caps are really good for damage health, for poisons. This part I'm not really going to go into detail about poisons, but they also restore magicka, and I think that's really helpful. Restore health. Here's some 5 common things. You know, these are mushrooms. These are leaves that are found everywhere. Sweet cake, you just go in and steal from some food. Restore fatigue, you know it's just food. Hopefully you already know that if you've played this game ever. Fortify magicka, I like, but a lot of these require like 50 or 75 alchemy skill. And honestly, I wouldn't be wasting my time on fortify magicka potions unless if I'm combining them with restore magicka potions. Because restore magicka is just better than fortify magicka in my opinion. And these ingredients are way easier to get than these ones. I mean, not way easier, but they're easier. Fortify fatigue is the one. These two are only Shivering Isles. And these, I already showed you where the wormwood leaves are. So I think something to remember too, you know, you can combine 4 ingredients. So if I want restore magicka and fortify magicka, I can do void salt, ectoplasm, flax seeds, steel blue mushrooms. Now, be careful, that might have damage health. But like I said, if you have an expert or higher alembic, it's going to be such a low negative side effect that I don't even worry about it. I think that there's some weird things about alembics making poison stronger and calcinators like applying doubly. I can get more into that in my deep dive for alchemy again when I get into poisons, because this is enough for just potions. The last thing I wanted to talk about is I still like talking about fortify fatigue. So remember, if I have journeyman gear here, well, yeah, we'll say journeyman and 75 skill. So that's kind of mid-ish game. It's not late game. Fortify fatigue is still 85. 85. So let's go to my weapon damage formula. If I have, by mid-game, 340 fatigue. So I have 100 strength, 100 willpower, 100 endurance, and 40 agility, because my warrior is not getting agility because I'm smart. That's going to be my max fatigue. If I'm able to fortify fatigue, here I'll just delete this stuff. I did it earlier. So my new max fatigue is going to be equal to my max fatigue plus, what did I say it was? 85, and I can drink 4 of those. We'll say 85. I don't even need the parentheses. I should know my order of operations. I'm a math teacher. 85 times 4. So it's now going to be 680. So my percent fatigue is going to be my new maximum divided by my old maximum. So that's going to be like my current fatigue. So that means, oh, and I should do times 100 to make it a percent, because in this formula. So that means I'm at 200% fatigue. So if I'm using a really powerful weapon late game, I'm going to be, if we look at this final damage, doubling it, and which is a 50% increase to damage. And so that sneak attack, if you looked before, if you look here, you know, it's doing 200 damage, like the best sneak attack in the game, and now it's doing 300 damage, and just physical damage. And this is not with the best fortify fatigue potions. And remember, I can do wormwood leaves, flour, and rice to include restore fatigue. So restore fatigue at that point, base cost of 2. So let's look at the magnitude when I change this. It's going to be 15. Now, it's not going to last as long, but should be okay. 15 per second. So I'm going to also have 15 restore fatigue going, which means that I have 4 of them. That's 60 fatigue a second. You're not spending 60 fatigue per second, no matter what you're doing. So if you're able to combine fortify and restore fatigue, you'll just be stuck at 200% fatigue until those wear off. And the fortify fatigue part of it, 0.04, is going to last really long. The problem with that is you'll probably want one with just restore fatigue, because when the restore fatigue portion of those potions fall off, you only are able to drink 4. And so you won't be able to drink new restore fatigue potions until these 292 seconds ones fall off. And so maybe if you drink 3 of these and then one with just restore fatigue, and then when that one falls off, you just keep going with that one. That way you'll always have at least one restore fatigue, or the hiccups, one restore fatigue potion. So yeah, if you took anything from that, get a really good calcinator. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, that's about all I got. Thanks for watching.